Yeah, presidential elections pass. We generally know by the time we go on the air at 11 how the state is going to be called, who wins the state. Well, the only way that happens this year likely is if there's a blowout one way or the other. By now, all of Ohio's 7.8 million registered voters should have received an absentee ballot application in the mail, and already more than 1 million of them have been sent back to be processed by your local Board of Elections so those ballots can go out on October 6th. A benefit Ohio has under its law is when you return your ballot, maybe a week later, it can be opened, your information verified, and the ballots can be scanned.
They just can't tabulate. Obviously not until 7:30 on election night. Once we've confirmed all the polls are closed, that's when you can start to add up the numbers. So in Ohio, the absentee votes are actually the first ballots counted in most cases.
In most cases, they are the operative words. That's because under Ohio law, all ballots postmarked by the day before the election can be counted as long as they are received in the mail at the BOE up to 10 days after the election.
We don't know what that number will be. Maybe tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of ballots that are yet outstanding.
And here's the thing, under Ohio law, we won't know how those votes were cast until 3 weeks after the election.
You can release results on election night, that's that unofficial canvass, and then weeks later.
So if you were to win the state by 446,000 votes, like Donald Trump did in 2016, those outstanding votes aren't likely to be an issue. But if the margin is closer, like 2004, when George W. Bush only won by 118,000 votes, they might be. And if by chance we were to somehow have a 1976 scenario where Jimmy Carter only won the state by 11,000 votes, and watch the lawyers flock to Ohio.
There's an old saying among elections officials. They say the elections official's prayer, Lord, whoever wins, let them win big.
So here's what they're going to do. They're going to change their election night website to show the unofficial results coming in that day, but also the number of outstanding absentee ballots. This way, in those 3 weeks in between, the candidates and campaign, if it's close, can make their own determination as to whether or not a race can be called.
So, John, he said that we will see those initial absentee totals usually by 8 o'clock on election night, but that wasn't the case in the primary.
No, it wasn't. If you remember, we went late into the night before we saw those wave of absentee votes. That's because he says it was an entirely vote-by-mail election, and they wanted to wait till they got all the votes processed that were mailed in that particular day. He tells me this November, we're going back to the way that it was, and again, we will tabulate once the polls close at 7:30, and by 7:45, 8 o'clock, we will have that big chunk of absentee votes that can be counted.